Nuanced Beauty is a podcast where we try to tease out the complexity, or as I say, the nuance, in any given topic so that we can acknowledge the tension there and hold space to see the beauty in it, the beauty in ourselves and the beauty in others and relationships. It's not easy seeing beyond our own opinions, but there's wisdom in the pursuit. So join us. Hi guys, welcome back to Nuanced Beauty.
Hey, everybody. And so what do you want to talk about?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
I don't know, like stuff,
Stuff and things?
maybe things.
Things and stuff?
Things and stuff. What about stuff?
Yeah.
Hey, what kind of stuff?
Let's do it. Let's talk about stuff.
She actually sent
Now
me
that you all are intrigued.
She actually sent me a text message saying, "Hey, we should do a podcast about stuff." I'm like, I think our podcast
What
is
kind of stuff?
always about stuff. Also things.
Uh-huh. So
She actually meant nouns. Let's talk about nouns.
nouns, stuff that is nouns, like materialism.
Okay, we stretched this enough. Tell me about the book you're reading.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't this come from a book?
Yeah, but I don't even remember what I was saying about that book.
It was about stuff.
There was a chapter about stuff. Yes. So there was a chapter about stuff, and she brought up like this, almost like this fine balance between stuff controlling you and you controlling, like you feeling overwhelmed by the amount of stuff you have. And
I think that's something that we can relate to. Also, anyone who's seen the movie Fight Club is it's ringing in their ears. Brad Pitt's line about the things that you own begin to own you.
yes, I think that there's this fine line between appreciating the stuff you have and being consumed by the stuff. And you almost have to ask yourself, like, well, I don't know, why do you have it? And what does it mean to you, really?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's maybe start this with a bit of some background stories.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, my parents really valued things.
Mm-hmm.
I always had the nicest things in terms of, like, I was the first person to get the Xbox when the Xbox came out.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents would point to those things as, see, look how much I love you. I bought you all these things. At the same time, every 3 months or so, my stepmom would give me a black plastic garbage bag and say, put all the clothes you don't wear in this. And because I was like a teenage boy, I only wore a couple of things. So for most of my adolescent life, I owned 7 t-shirts, 1 pair of jeans,
Yeah.
7 pairs of underwear, 7 socks.
Yeah.
Pairs of socks.
Uh-huh.
And then that kind of carried through about this idea that I'm not really attached to a lot of my things. And a part of that is because of that taught behavior of, well, if you're not using it, throw it away.
Uh-huh.
Why is this in the house? You're not using it. And part of it is, I think, a bit of a reaction to the weight that they put on so many things.
Yeah, and
as artifacts of affection.
Uh-huh. And so when we got early into marriage, I feel that we would buy high quality things. We would spend money on items, but we also would buy not many things.
Well, yeah, I don't know how true that is, because I feel like you have a remarkable ability, and I feel like this almost needs to be a recurring segment, because I feel like every episode I talk about your remarkable abilities to find inexpensive things that look really nice.
That's a good point.
Consider
too.
all of your jewelry.
I do, but then I do like when we got our careers and we were making very good money and didn't have college debt, I would buy a $300 Coach purse. And folks that I grew up with could not fathom spending that sort of money on a purse. Like, why would you buy that purse? You could go to Walmart and buy a $10 purse. Like, you blew $300 on a purse?
And if you're wondering how we pulled that off, go back to our episode of So You Want to Attend a Service Academy.
Yeah, go attend a service academy. Send your kids that way so that you don't have college debt and you have a good paying job. So
you also have background luggage about having things.
Yeah. So for me, thinking about material, I can remember a couple times going to a storage, because my mom always had a storage unit. She has one today still. And it just being piled to the top with things. And we would go like on a Saturday, like, okay, we're gonna clean up my storage unit, and I would be there kind of like encouraging my mom and not in like a like super supportive encouragement,
Encouraging her to throw shit
more like
away.
a cynical sort of like, why do we have this? You haven't used this in how many years? Like, throw this away. Like, this does not serve you. This
I
is
don't need a
just sitting in
VHS
this.
tape of Beauty and the Beast.
I don't need 3 copies of a DVD.
I don't own a VHS player. And they're
Yeah.
actually kind of expensive to get now.
Yeah. But and that's the reason why I think in part there was a sentimental value, but there was also this like, oh, but what if someday I could use it? And I think that
You've gone a bit on the far end for most of your life, and I think you're.
And I think that my grandma too had a good amount of stuff, and I think it played out where my mom too had a lot of stuff. I think less so than my grandma, and at one point, one of the homes that we were in, it was totally almost hoarder status, and you could barely walk into rooms at a time. And that's when stuff becomes too much. And so I think seeing just a handful of moments in my upbringing at that level, I deduced, why would you have all this shit? And it's not of value to have all of these things.
This does not spark joy.
Yeah, this does not spark joy. I went heavily on the minimalist side of things, and there's no need. Like, there's no need for all this stuff. And it doesn't serve me. And I think that even
I wouldn't go so far as to say our early apartments were Spartan, but I definitely don't think we put a lot of like we were very quick to throw a lot of things away. We had a buy nothing group in Seattle that was very used by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we used it to get rid of a lot of stuff. We actively got rid of stuff.
Yeah, I think I probably would fall under the principle of, if I'm not going to use this in the next year, besides having a couple totes of holiday seasonal items.
And even that, it's like a tote.
Yeah, it's a tote.
We have one.
We have one tote full
of Christmas things.
Maybe it's expanded one tote plus a little because I really like Christmas light decorations. So slowly but surely, every year I accumulate a couple more Christmas light decorations.
And every year when I have to move down the second tote, I grumble.
Yeah, because we're expanding and we have more stuff. We also have a much bigger home here. So there's more room to put stuff, and it doesn't look like we have more stuff.
And we're also in a place where a lot of people decorate.
Yeah, it's so familial around here, and it's so like it has an idyllic feel for sure.
So do you feel like being in a place where a lot of people are decorating, you feel a pressure to have more of that stuff?
No, I think for me the motivator is the fact that Zeke enjoys decorating. Zeke has this bug for like, oh, can we decorate? So, last Halloween, took him to the dollar store, let him pick out chintzy decorations, and that was like the highlight of his day. And so that was more of an activity and a getting in the spirit sort of thing. And it also went along with how the neighborhood likes to decorate. Having Zeke enjoy these decor type things has led me to get off of my soapbox.
You walk around this neighborhood and you see these giant decorations.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't mean
there
the inflatables.
8-foot skeleton, pumpkin, wolf,
and they're rigid too. It's not like the inflatables that I can see how this could suck down and fold up neatly and maybe fit in a tote or two. Like, these are solid.
Yeah, there's a good mix of both.
Which means that
they're storing
11 months out of the year, they're storing that somewhere. And that is a weight on their lives of effort they're putting into, because whether it's on a shelf or not, there's a space in your brain that's holding on to this.
Potentially. But when you have such a big house and you don't have to worry about moving things around, maybe it carries less weight than it would per se in Seattle, where our home was much smaller.
Because some of those things are too big to even go into totes. So it's probably like in an attic.
Yeah.
And so you climb up into that attic to replace a furnace filter, because some of the furnace filters are in attics.
Uh-huh.
And you turn around, there's just a skeleton.
Yeah. Super cool. This is like straight up out of like a Disney movie or whatever, Meet the Goonies, something or
Meet the
other.
Goonies.
Is that what it's called?
No.
Oh my gosh, what's it called?
The Goonies?
The Goonies.
Meet the Goonies, meet the...
I knew what I was going for, though. I just missed the mark a little bit.
But the thing I picked up on what you were saying there is that you went to the dollar store, which means you bought disposable decorations.
I bought disposable decorations.
Because you valued the activity, not the stuff.
Yes.
Versus when you buy these very high-end decorations, like you're putting value in that stuff. You're laboring under the weight of that stuff.
Yeah, and maybe that shows a value judgment on my part because it's Halloween and we're buying dollar store. But for Christmas, I'm buying Christmas lights that we store.
Yeah, growing up, we only decorated for Halloween. My parents were big Halloween people. And we had like a garland or something we put out for Thanksgiving or Christmas, but the big one and Christmas with Christmas ornaments, the Christmas tree was a big deal. But we didn't do much else besides that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what you're describing is valuing the activity, not the stuff.
Yes, in this case, for sure.
So we kind of come from this for various reasons in our childhood. This place of I really don't care about a lot of these things, which is a luxury you have when you can afford a lot of things. I think.
Yeah, and it almost that like I'm thinking about going the next generations back. You have like the is it the baby boomer generation where like they had a very unsettled
the baby boomers were very settled.
The depression. So it was before the baby boomer era where it was like the Great Depression. And then those parents like wanted to hold on to their stuff because they had it all stripped away. And so then their kids kind of had it in excess. So there's almost this weird cyclical generational thing when you have things in excess. And then you want to like bring it back because you don't see as much value in the stuff because it's always been there for you.
When I went back to, and this was again the generational thing, how did I'm not asking you, I'm asking the audience here, how did your parents treat your stuff when you moved out? Because before I moved out to go to college, my parents gave me a tote and said, put everything in these totes and they're just going to go in the basement. I moved out of my room. My room was not my room once I left for college. And all that stuff was still there. And after we got married, we went back to get some of it. And there's like art from when I was in elementary school. And my dad's like giving me all this. I'm like, I don't give a crap about it.
What am I going to do with this?
Yeah, I think this was for you.
Yeah.
There was a wooden sword that I carved in like 7th or 8th grade. And my parents are going to throw it out at one point. I'm like, no, don't throw it out. That should be like in the garage still. So when my kids come to visit, they can like play with that sword that I made. It was going to be kind of a cool story. But when I came back, they're like, no, you need to take this sword.
Yeah, take this sword. Take this massive fish.
It's in our garage now. Oh yeah, the fish.
The fish. There's like I don't know. How big is that fish?
23 inches.
A 23-inch fish that's mounted, a rainbow trout on our wall in the garage. That's made it through all of our moves.
Yeah.
One of those humorous things.
But what they were communicating in that is that like kid, whatever it's stuff that we're just gonna throw in the basement, and kind of take it or not really. But I very much was moved out of that space. We have friends on the other hand, or at least a friend.
Yeah, her room was preserved. Like it might as well have been a relic museum where the toothbrush was left and the half-used toothpaste and half-used bottle of shampoo is still in the shower. How crazy!
Yeah, because there was this kind of value placed on that stuff.
And I will say, because we happen to live in an area, we live in the same area as the person that we're talking about. This place has massive homes. Yeah. So now that I'm here and I'm in this massive home.
You didn't need that room.
Yeah, there is a component of, okay, I thought it was really, really crazy when I first heard it. But now that I'm here and we have this huge home that has so much space, was it just like not worth the effort? In this case, I don't think that was their storyline. But I have a little bit of like, yeah, we don't really need the space. So I'm just going to leave it where it's at because whatever. So I have a little bit of compassion.
Yeah, a little bit of compassion for it. But
Or I think an angle that came up for me in thinking about stuff is how we have super high depression rates and really bad outlook in our country. And we are what we consider quote unquote a developed world
Mm-hmm.
in comparison to poor countries. And I am sure there are so many, like, this is a multifaceted issue and the things that contribute to this. But I have to think that the way that we hold on to materialism and the way that that plays out in our hearts and our like minds, the clutter in our minds, because the clutter in our homes, there has to be a link there. And that's where I'm not, that's where I tend toward the minimalist side still, even still.
So, two things, and this is just a thought I'm having in the moment. But if you look at corporate budgets or governmental budgets, uh, you know, corporations don't have money. They don't have cash. They have debt,
Yeah.
and their revenue, a lot of it goes into servicing that debt. You'll see influencers talking about how I never spend your own money, spend the bank's money. Uh, and so on every budget sheet, there's a level of your income, your revenue that's going towards debt services. And I feel like the more stuff a business has, more debts that they have to service. And on the individual level, the more things we own, we're taking on this debt. And I don't mean necessarily a financial debt to pivot away from that, but there is kind of a spiritual debt that you're incurring as you're collecting things.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you have a fear over losing these things.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a
Sense
time
of upkeep.
time sink into the upkeep. Exactly. You spend more and more of your time owning these things, and it's maybe to take it even a step further, an identity question.
Mm-hmm.
You are the owner of these things. That is part of the identity that you've taken on. You spend a lot of your time in the day in this space of being the owner of this thing, and that's a spiritual, a physical, chronological burden that you take on
Mm-hmm.
when you own things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's necessary to own things. In the same way, it's necessary. You could argue for how businesses or governments run. It's just how the world works, but there is a weight to carry there.
Yeah, but I
That
think,
said,
yeah, without just only hanging out in the nuanced chaos,
yeah,
we got to get to the beauty part too, right?
okay, and
Let's
that's
leave people on a
that
high
brings me to my
note.
second point here,
Yeah.
which is you ever read the Telltale Heart?
No.
You have an Best of Edgar Allan Poe book on your bookshelf. You've read the Telltale Heart.
Okay.
The Telltale Heart is a story of a person who kills somebody. It's
Okay.
Edgar Allan Poe. Of course, it's dark, and he buries the body underneath the floorboards. And
Oh.
then a friend comes over and they're talking. In the meantime, he can hear the beating heart underneath the floorboards, and that beating heart is the
Uh-huh.
beating heart of his own guilt. It's representative.
Uh-huh.
And as we're talking about, I don't care about these things, I can hear the beating heart of the nostalgia bin that each of us has in the back of our closet.
Uh-huh.
We each, and this is just a thing we've done in our
And
marriage,
it
we each
says
just
the word nostalgia on it.
that's what we call it. We
Yeah.
each have a bin with nostalgia stuff, and it has like uh, a picture of my football team from high school,
Uh-huh.
the beer stein that we got in high school graduation. Weird thing
Mine
about
has random pieces of currency from days of sailing.
my high school diplomas in there. Um,
Uh-huh.
Trophies, like we
Pom-poms.
you have pom poms.
I think so.
Let's have fun with that
Wedding
later.
dress. I think the wedding dress is up
You have
there.
a separate wedding bin
Oh, I do
for
have a
wedding
wedding
specific
bin.
things.
Okay, fine.
Uh,
But we too have carried things with us.
because there
And
is value in those remembrances.
yes, there is power, there is a tangible, and it's not all bad. There is beauty in it, right?
There's absolute
So
beauty in it.
I think of
Going to
the
see.
movie. Well, okay, yeah, going to see. But I'll share the one
talk
story, and
about
then
the movie first. Yeah.
um hope floats. This thought came to me, how her mother passes away and she goes to her mother's closet and she puts on one of her mom's robes or her outfits, and
Which I think is so weird.
it sounds really weird, but in regards to wanting to feel connected to process the passing of someone, like, it caused a a strong connection, I think, for her to tangibly put on her mother's outfit. And I don't know, it sounds weird, but there was power in it. And it was a way of connecting. That is like a really like beautiful, profound, deep thing. And likewise with us, when we went out to sea, that's the next part you wanted to go
Before we go
into.
there, I have a one picture of my mother that would be on the short list of things I'd grab in a fire.
Yeah.
I didn't really have a relationship with my mom because I didn't see her much after my parents divorced, but I have this one picture.
Yeah, and the table that we're sitting at and recording is a table that my grandpa Becker made in the 60s. And all of the kids ate at this table. Recently, we had my aunts over and they like sat at this table. And my Aunt Michelle looked at it and she went, "Is that our table?"
4 generations
And
of Beckers have sat at this table.
yeah, like grandma was here. Two of my aunts, right? Yeah. And myself are here and we eat at this table
and
every
our
day.
kids, like we were
And our
all at
kids,
this table.
yeah. And the way that they reacted, because this table was part of them. And my aunt said, "Oh, this table is much smaller than I remember," because she sat at this table when she was a young kid, and this table was a huge table.
To add movie references, go back and watch the movie My Life.
Okay.
Because there's the movie My Life is about a guy who learns that, I've referenced this movie in this podcast before, who finds out that he has cancer and he's going to die in about 6 months. The problem is his wife's pregnant. So he is going to die before his child is born. And the whole movie is him making like videos for his kid, which includes him making a video of his childhood home. And he steps into the backyard, and the first thing he says, and this is Michael Keaton, like peak Michael Keaton, right? He turns around and says, "It's so small." And it's just like, if you want a good cry, watch this movie. You're gonna cry most of the movie.
Okay.
And there's like little things, like there's a little part of the handrail banister that's loose that he's like, it's still loose. Like there's all sorts of things like that. But yeah, so there's, and in a way that's the opposite of what we were talking about, about the things owning you. It's you imbuing your spirit into these things.
Yeah. And the good in that. So with us going out to sea, we wanted to talk about that topic because in one point, in one side of it, you should only pack what you can carry up the gangway. And so you realize being out on a ship, and when you're packing to leave for, if it's a 2-month or it's a 4-month or it's a 6 or 8-month trip, wow, this is all I need. Like this bag is what's going to get me through the next 6 to 8 months, because obviously on the ship, I will have a bed, I will have food.
I will have a laundry.
And I'll have a laundry ability to do. So what special items made it into your sea bag?
I had a packet of photos from when we were dating. Because that was
Was that with the note cards?
That was something different, because I had pictures that I went down to Walgreens and got printed. Because that was back when you did that sort of thing. And then you sent me with packets of like note cards, open on day 1, opened on day 10, things like that, which is really sweet, and that meant a lot to me. I had a Bible that I kept with me, and even like kind of before I was had a deeper faith, it felt right to have.
Okay.
And that was I had a lucky rock. I actually left that rock on the Washington Express.
I was about to say, where is this rock? I don't know what rock you're talking about.
Yeah, it actually wasn't a rock. It was a piece of resin that had a 4-leaf clover embedded into it.
And
that was really it. I didn't have a lot.
So
you had a bit more.
I didn't have a lot, but I did maybe have more than you. When I sailed, I think before even having Zeke, but then after as well, I have this bear. It's a brown bear called Bear.
Yeah, I got it from the Necks on campus, and it was a USMMA bear, but I took the shirt off of it, so it'd just be a teddy bear.
And that was before we graduated, and then that made it out to sea with me. And I was kind of thinking, like, in hindsight, it would have been so cute if I actually took pictures with Bear at sea in various spots, because now, like, then Zeke would have like the pictures of Bear.
Mm-hmm.
So it would almost like allow him to put himself like, oh, this bear has been all over the place, and kind of get it a little more than just me saying it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also made like a personalized calendar. So every month had photos of us so that I could mark off the days of my trip while I was out there. And at one point I took a yoga mat to sea because I was super into yoga, and I wanted to get that like meditation time
Doing
in.
yoga
On
on
a
a
ship is
moving
way harder,
platform.
way harder. But it was like the calm seas, I could do it in the calm weather. Um, and I definitely had I had a ton of books
Mm-hmm.
on a Kindle,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a ton of movies on a hard drive.
Yeah, I didn't count those as material keepsakes. That was just entertainment.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, and it's just like easier because you put it on like a small thumb drive.
Yeah.
But those things mattered.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even recently when we were back in Seattle, we bought a pumpkin.
Oh, that pumpkin.
We had this pumpkin.
It's one of those things, and I'm sure we're way over time, but I don't care. I spent so much time kind of being critical of my parents over how they would hold over my head anything that I broke in the house. 30 years later, they're talking about something I broke when I was 5. And then Aaron broke my pumpkin.
And you got super sad?
I got so sad. It's my fault. Like, I put it in a place you can reach. It's totally my fault that I left that pumpkin there. But there's a Avalon Glassworks in Seattle. They make blown glass pumpkins for Halloween.
Very cool.
And growing up, Halloween was the only thing we decorated for. So I have a ceramic black rose that I got at Busch Gardens, and I have that Halloween pumpkin that are kind of like my things. I don't have very many things in this house. Those are my things.
Yeah.
And Aaron broke it, and I was so upset.
His heart was broken. It was so
Fortunately, we had a
rough.
trip to Seattle planned, and we got a new one.
Yeah, and we drove by, and it's like, oh, pumpkins are here, Bill. We have to get a new one. So we in our 8-day trip to Seattle, trying to see everybody that we could and all the things that we value, we made a point.
We got
to get to Avalon Glassworks
and Georgetown Brewery to get a 6-pack.
And to get a couple 6-packs. So yeah, like there's this sentimental and beautiful thing to decorations. And I think even where my heart has softened about how I feel about stuff is in the buying Halloween decorations or buying Valentine's Day decorations.
I think treasuring the memories with your children are what softens your heart on things like this.
Yeah, and also it brings me back to the legacy and the generation beyond me, because Zeke has this like enjoyment in decorating that I don't have. But when I see it in him, I'm reminded of my grandma and all of her decorations. And I think it genuinely brought joy to her to have these decorations. It allowed this rhythmic seasonal passing, and it brought yeah,
that's really beautiful. I think we can end it there. Where do you guys fall on this? Like, are you Marie Kondo minimalist? Do you have a nostalgia bin? What's in your nostalgia bin?
What sparks joy for you?
What sparks joy?
Or what burdens you, and what stuff consumes you and is taking too much bandwidth that maybe you could reassess? This week's book recommendation is a book that I didn't finish, full disclosure, because I found myself agreeing with it a lot. I was just reading every page and thinking, yes, 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 yes. So the book is The More of Less by Joshua Becker. Subtitle is Finding the Life You Want Under Everything You Own. This author has written several books on the topic of stuff and becoming a minimalist. And as we explored in this episode, I don't know where the sweet spot is in the middle, but I do think that if you are on the side of feeling like your stuff is weighing you down and you're needing motivation or encouragement to reassess what you value and how much stuff you have, this would be a great book or a great author to look up and see the couple of books that he has on the topic. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and in the spirit of nuance, I hope you found something that you could agree with and disagree with and still choose to lean in. If you're liking the show, please follow us and share it with friends and leave a rating and review. Until next time.